Dictators Without Borders by Alexander Cooley and John Heathershaw is a groundbreaking analysis of the intersection between authoritarianism, globalization, and international finance. Published in 2017, the book investigates how authoritarian leaders from Central Asia exploit transnational networks to consolidate power, siphon resources, and legitimize their regimes. Through meticulous research and vivid case studies, Cooley and Heathershaw challenge conventional narratives of globalization as a democratizing force, revealing how it often serves to entrench authoritarianism. The authors focus on the post-Soviet states of Central Asia: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, examining how these countries' autocratic rulers have adapted to the globalized world by leveraging offshore financial systems, foreign legal frameworks, and international organizations. The book demonstrates that these regimes are not isolated from the global order. Instead, they actively participate in and exploit it. The globalization of authoritarianism. One of the central themes of the book is how globalization, rather than dismantling authoritarian regimes, has provided them with new tools for survival and expansion. Cooley and Heathershaw argue that Central Asia's dictators use global networks to export corruption, launder money, and maintain control over their populations. These regimes have mastered the art of what the authors term authoritarian internationalism, a system where autocrats collaborate across borders to undermine democracy, neutralize dissent, and bolster their legitimacy. This process involves various strategies, such as establishing foreign investments, utilizing legal and financial services in Western democracies, and engaging in image laundering campaigns through public relations firms and lobbyists. Offshore finance and kleptocracy. A significant portion of the book focuses on the role of offshore financial systems in enabling kleptocratic practices. Cooley and Heathershaw illustrate how Central Asian leaders and their associates transfer billions of dollars out of their countries into offshore accounts in places like Switzerland, the British Virgin Islands, and London. These financial havens allow dictators to hide wealth, evade scrutiny, and reinvest illicit funds in global markets. For example, the authors delve into the case of Gulnara Karimova, the daughter of Uzbekistan's former president Islam Karimov. Once a prominent figure on the international stage, Karimova allegedly used offshore companies to channel bribes and profits from telecommunications firms. Her story epitomizes how Central Asian elites exploit global financial networks to sustain their power while avoiding accountability. The role of Western institutions. The book also critiques Western governments and institutions for enabling authoritarian regimes. Western banks, law firms, and lobbying groups often play a pivotal role in facilitating the operations of dictatorships. Cooley and Heathershaw argue that institutions in democratic countries frequently turn a blind eye to the origins of their clients' wealth, focusing instead on lucrative financial opportunities. For instance, the authors highlight the practice of reputation laundering, where authoritarian leaders hire PR firms to enhance their global image. By funding prestigious cultural institutions, sponsoring academic programs, and engaging with think tanks, these regimes craft a veneer of respectability. This phenomenon not only shields autocrats from criticism, but also undermines democratic values by normalizing their behavior. The dynamics of power and control. At the heart of Dictators Without Borders is an exploration of how Central Asian regimes maintain control over their populations while projecting power internationally. The authors examine tactics such as transnational repression, where dissidents living abroad are harassed, surveilled, or even assassinated. One notable example is the case of Rakat Aliyev, a former Kazakh official turned dissident who fled to Austria. Despite his high-profile status, Aliyev faced sustained pressure from Kazakhstan's government, illustrating the lengths to which Central Asian dictators go to silence opposition beyond their borders. The book also discusses how these regimes manipulate international organizations like Interpol. By issuing red notices against exiled opponents, dictatorships exploit global law enforcement mechanisms to target critics, often under the guise of combating terrorism or organized crime. Central Asia's complex geopolitics. Cooley and Heathershaw contextualize the actions of Central Asian regimes within the broader geopolitical landscape. The region is strategically significant due to its vast natural resources, including oil, gas, and minerals, as well as its location at the crossroads of major powers like Russia, China, and the United States. The authors argue that this geopolitical importance has shielded Central Asian dictators from international criticism. Western governments often prioritize energy security and counterterrorism cooperation over human rights, allowing authoritarian leaders to operate with impunity. Similarly, Russia and China support these regimes to counter Western influence and promote their own models of governance. Implications for global governance. Dictators Without Borders raises critical questions about the effectiveness of global governance in addressing authoritarianism and corruption. Cooley and Heathershaw highlight the limitations of international anti-corruption initiatives, noting that many are undermined by the very states that claim to uphold them. The authors call for greater scrutiny of global financial systems and stronger enforcement of anti-money laundering regulations. They also emphasize the need for Western democracies to address their complicity in enabling authoritarian practices, arguing that a failure to do so undermines global efforts to promote democracy and the rule of law. Case studies. The book is rich with detailed case studies that bring its arguments to life. In addition to Gulnara Karimova and Rakat Aliyev, Cooley and Heathershaw explore the stories of other Central Asian elites, such as the Nazarbayev family in Kazakhstan and the Akayev family in Kyrgyzstan. These cases illustrate the diverse strategies employed by authoritarian leaders to accumulate and protect wealth, from exploiting resource revenues to leveraging family networks. The authors also provide insights into how ordinary citizens in Central Asia experience these dynamics. While the book primarily focuses on elite behavior, it does not ignore the impact of kleptocracy and authoritarianism on broader society, highlighting issues such as inequality, poverty, and the erosion of public trust. Critiques and contributions. Dictators Without Borders has been widely praised for its rigorous research and compelling narrative. It offers a unique perspective on the relationship between authoritarianism and globalization, challenging the assumption that the two are inherently opposed. By highlighting the complicity of Western institutions, the book forces readers to confront uncomfortable truths about the global order. However, some critics have noted that the book's focus on Central Asia may limit its applicability to other regions. While the authors draw connections between Central Asia and broader global trends, they do not always explore these links in depth. Additionally, the book's emphasis on elite behavior may leave readers wanting more discussion of grassroots resistance and alternative pathways to reform. Dictators Without Borders is a powerful and timely contribution to the study of authoritarianism, globalization, and international politics. Cooley and Heathershaw's analysis reveals how Central Asian dictatorships have adapted to the globalized world, using its tools to entrench their power and export corruption. The book's insights into the complicity of Western institutions are particularly compelling, challenging readers to rethink their assumptions about democracy, capitalism, and global governance. By exposing the dark side of globalization, Dictators Without Borders serves as a wake-up call for policymakers, scholars, and citizens alike. It underscores the need for greater accountability in global financial systems and more robust mechanisms to counter authoritarian practices. Above all, it reminds us that the fight for democracy and human rights is not confined to any one region. It is a truly global struggle.